is going to be giving a brief interview with us. So thank you very much for that, Andrew. This is, as always, WWPI. Here he is. Hello? You should be on now.
I'm on.
You are on!
Yes.
All right.
How are you doing?
I'm doing quite well. I hope this is recording properly because my levels are going weird. I had a couple of questions for you. I've been a fan of Tally Hall for years, and as of recently, a big fan of your music specifically. And
Thank you.
to start out, I want to say my younger sister is a band kid, and I know you're kind of an orchestra kid. So where do you stand on the band kid versus orchestra kid rivalry? Was that a thing when you were in high school?
Is there a rivalry? I think it was a thing, but I went to a small school, so I knew of it, but it never quite existed in my world. But yeah, the marching band is pretty serious. It's a serious endeavor.
They're impressive. It's the same thing, but like standing up in ridiculous costumes.
Yeah. Well, it's not. It's I have a lot of respect for marching band personnel. Ross was in drumline for during college, and I think it maybe before that, but it was really intense.
Yeah. My second question is, I really like some of your early stuff with Toy Orchestra, where you had like the toy piano and like 20 different people singing along. I think that's got a really cool feel to it. And how did you recruit like 20 members for this sing-along band?
Well, thank you. That was a good time. Basically, I had this idea that anybody can play music and anybody can sing, and that was just a big part of my mantra around that time. Well, it started with just like a couple of my close friends, and Rob was definitely involved, and Zubin was Rob and Zubin were in it, and I was just kind of write songs whenever I could and bring them to the group. And everybody else had their own network of friends. So, someone would be over our college house and would say, "Hey, I'd love to. I want to be in that too. It looks like fun." Or they'd come to a show and say, "Can I join?" And that's how we got to 20. It was fun. It was a lot of work, but it was something that I always wanted to go back, return to, and start up again. But it becomes a lot tougher to organize once you're out of a college environment.
That's incredibly fun. So it sort of grew into that on its own.
Yeah, it was just kind of an open. During that time, we were at the earlier stages of Tally Hall, and we were taking it pretty seriously. And this was all our friends would come to the shows, and it was it was a good way to just, bring together the community in a music-making way instead of them watching us on stage.
And speaking of Toy Orchestra, you played a toy piano, and there's also a lot of toy piano in sketches. Now, I have a friend who's kind of a toy piano enthusiast. Could you give me any, specs on that piano? Do you remember anything specific about it?
Toy piano enthusiast. Well, it's a Schoenhut baby. It's a Schoenhut baby grand. I still have it. I'd never play it. These days, I have a lot of sampler instruments, which if you do in music, it's just people record the audio and you can just play it on your big keyboard. And it sounds just as good or better because it's well recorded if you have good samples. But yeah, it was a Stoneheart. I have a couple other toy pianos hidden away. There's not that many companies that make them. So, yeah, that's all I really can say about the toy piano.
Where have you found, you have multiple toy pianos, you say. Where have you found these at just garage sales, or do you seek them out?
I used to seek out. I mean, yeah, if I saw one I thought it was cool, I would I would procure it. Over time, I wound up with a lot of toy instruments, and I still do. Like, I went to South Africa like 3 years ago, and I had to buy an extra couple of pieces of luggage because I went to a friend took me to a flea market, and they had all sorts of crazy instruments, and I had to have everyone. So I literally had 2 huge luggages full of percussion and pianos and all sorts of stuff. But yeah, over time now I don't have room for anything, so I don't buy stuff as much.
Oh, that's amazing though. I love the image of needing a whole new bag for all your new instruments.
Yeah. You'll hear them on some record, hopefully one day.
Yeah. A question that my friend recommended. Do you have a favorite machine at Marvin's Marvelous Mechanical Museum?
Ooh, that's a good question. I've never been asked that. There's so many cool machines there. The one that comes, the spaghetti machine, which we referenced in our internet show. It's definitely memorable. I'll always watch that go down when we get there. And there's a couple other machines like that with like assembly lines that are very intricate, and you just basically watch the gears in action. Yeah, I'm blanking on it, but yeah, there's a bunch of machines in there I love. We have this picture with this love tester it's like one of our promo photos, but the love tester, Marvin from Marvin's Marvelous, he like lent it to us when we were filming our internet show. So we had that in our house for like months. And when we were done with it, I think we wound up having it for like a year or something. He's like, "Do you want to buy it? I don't need it back." And we were like kind of poor at the time. We were like, we can't. But I kind of regret that. It would have been kind of fun to still have. But then again, I don't have any room anywhere, so I live in New York.
That seems to be the curse. You just don't have the room for all these cool things.
Yeah, right.
So my next question is also about Tally Hall. I'm kind of slowly going through these in chronological order. I put these questions in chronological order. In Tally Hall, there's sort of 3 main songwriters, and you guys all had very different musical backgrounds, but I feel like there's some common features in your songs, like both you and Joe Hawley specifically tend to write distinct movements into your songs, like in Good Day or Fate of the Stars. Was there ever any conscious discussion about, like, what the Tally Hall sound would be, or did you just sort of end up writing in a similar way? Or was that conscious at all? Did you notice it at all?
I think when you hang out with certain people, you tend to take in what they give. And I don't think it was anything conscious at any point. And we certainly have our filters. There are songs that we bring to the band and songs that we don't. And did over time. So I think that kind of we didn't consciously write. Sometimes we consciously wrote for the band and said, okay, we know these are the instruments. This is the sound I'm going for. This is what I have to work with. But a lot of there was no like you have to do this or you have to do that. It was if it was a cool song and everybody related to it in some way, then we could improve on it. Then we would give it a shot.
How do you think your more classical musical background influenced how you wrote songs and your song decisions there versus, I guess, you writing songs with a more classical background with 2 songwriters who had a more pop and home recording background? How was that? Was there ever any, like, strange cultural clashes there of learning things from each other?
Well, not really. I mean, home recording wasn't really even a thing, you know. When Joe recorded on Final Cut Pro, which is a video editing app. He didn't know, like, there was no Logic or Cubase or Ableton or, that wasn't even part of the discussion at the time. So Joe was just like a hobbyist who was using this primitive video editing software to do some like primitive recording. And for that reason, he had all these crazy, like, in order to get the audio into Final Cut Pro, we had to record through his video camera. So complete demos, a lot of it's recorded through a video camera, which was really painstaking, but that's what you had to do. And none of us really, like, now it seems silly because you can get GarageBand comes with Macs. Like, everybody has GarageBand, but at the time it wasn't like that. And Rob wasn't really recording himself. He was playing songs out and about. He had a handful of songs. And yeah, none of us were really recording at the time. Recording wasn't the thing. Now it is, but it was like performing. That was the thing, or like writing songs to play live for your friends or something.
I have a song. My listeners, my listeners are requesting this question. What was your favorite song to write, do you think?
I mean, I don't really have a favorite to write, but I can tell you
I thought that might be a hard question.
I wrote Whole World in You in like an hour. And I remember writing it. And that was kind of an exhilarating thing because that doesn't usually happen for me. And I just was able to pump it out from start to finish, pretty much in its finished form. But yeah, that's a rare thing, and it's a great thing when it happens.
That is impressive. It holds up.
Yeah, well, most songs, I mean, like, most of the time you do that, you get a pile of crap. But once in a while, you'll hit something. Once in a while, if you're very lucky, you'll hit something good.
I have heard rumor that you wrote True Love long before Tally Hall. Is that true, or is that just something people say?
That is not true.
That is not true. Officially debunked on WWPI. I've gotten in discussions with people over that. I didn't think it was written that way. Oh, wow. But that means it was quite a dated cultural reference then.
At the time?
Yeah, I mean, like 10 years out of date?
I don't think so. It seems pretty relevant when I wrote it, but I don't know. If there's one song I wish I didn't bring to the table, it would be that one.
Really? Why?
Yeah. I just think it's silly, and I mean, I don't want to say much, but
See, when you first thought that, I thought that you were saying like it was too good, and you wished you withheld it so that you could put it on your own record.
No, I wish I threw it out, but never know.
Well, too late for that now.
You can't go back. Too late, Yeah, no regrets.
No regrets. This is a very specific question, but in the video for Good Day, there is a 2-second shot where there's a tarantula climbing up your face. Did you volunteer for that, or were you volunteered for that?
Knowing me, I probably volunteered for it. I probably said, you know what, not a big deal.
All right. See, I love insects, so I'm glad that... Are spiders insects? I can't remember. I love bugs.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I'm very glad. An even more specific question. Goodness. There was a song performed by Tally Hall only once or twice live that I believe was called 1 and 1S2. And I believe you sang it. I've seen just a handful of recordings of it. Can you tell me any more about that song and why it seemed to have only popped up a couple of times? I'm very curious.
I really haven't thought about that in a while, but, I have a video of it somewhere, and I think I saw it. In the last 6 months or so, I saw it, and I was like, oh, yeah, that song. I think we did it with, I could be wrong, but I think we did it with, like, lights that went on and off.
Yes.
I think Joe wrote that tune. I'm not really sure why we didn't play it past that. He might have written it just for that. I don't know why we didn't record it. I really don't remember much, but it is kind of a fun tune. I don't know. I honestly can't remember the reasoning behind it.
All right, that's fine. I thought you might be the man to ask because you were singing it, but I'm guessing that's just because you had the vocoder there.
That's probably what it was.
All right. So you've been playing keyboards for a long time, but have you picked up any new instruments that you're particularly proud of since 2012 or so?
Honestly, I try to play guitar and bass. Every like once a year, I'll be like, oh, I should play guitar. And last year I bought a fancy guitar, and I was like, I'm gonna do it. And I'll spend a month or two on it, and then I'll just lose interest and get sidetracked. So I'm an amateur guitar and bass player, but that's pretty much it. I have so many friends that are so good at those things that it doesn't really bother me. I always have someone to turn to play for me that's going to do a better job.
Yeah, I've been trying to learn accordion for about a year, or about 2 years now, and I'm in the same situation where I got so excited, and it's very difficult for me to remember to actually work on it. But
Yeah.
As long as you know one person who can play it.
Accordion? Well, accordion's pretty... Yeah. I know so many guitarists and bass players that, I'll be good. I'm good. I can write on a guitar, and I do write from time to time. I'll write a song on a guitar, which is good because it changes the whole way you look at, when you have a different instrument in front of you, you think differently.
I have a friend who's really into Foo Fighters who tells me that Dave Grohl started out as a drummer, so now whenever he writes for guitar, he thinks of it like it's a drum and tries to explain it to people that like, oh, the lowest note is like the kick drum, and this one is the snare or something. Like, his style of writing is so influenced by what instruments he learned first.
Well, yeah, he was, Nirvana was his original band, which is he was considered like an incredible drummer at the time. But
Chris Novoselic is another accordionist.
Is he?
Yeah.
Interesting.
There aren't very many of us accordionists, so I need to look out for my own.
You got Weird Al. You got Chris. I don't remember how to pronounce his name. There's I'm trying to throw out some random obscure names to you, but I'm having trouble.
They might be giants.
Oh yeah, definitely. I don't know. Cornmo. Does he play accordion?
Cornmo does play accordion. I'm really surprised that you pulled that one out of somewhere, because I only know about him because he collaborated with They Might Be Giants.
Okay. Yeah.
How do you know about Cornmo?
I've been around the block.
You've been around the block. It's all you Brooklynites know each other, right?
No, I mean, I actually sat next to him in a bar once, but I don't know him. But I have friends that know him, blah, blah, blah. Like, I don't know.
All right.
I don't know. Yeah.
So your most recent personal music release was Etudes in 2018, but those were pieces that were written in 2003. So are you still writing new music, or do you feel that you've sort of moved on and now your primary role is being a producer?
I still write new music. Every day I'm like, okay, I'm going to start this again or that again, but I get sidetracked because life, there's just always a pile of things on my table to take care of, or my desk to take care of. But my ACs were just like for college, like, I studied classical composition in college, and those were from my college days, and I always wanted to record them. So I did that finally. I'm probably, if I say it, I'll make it happen, but I want to record a follow-up to that in 2021, the next volume of that. And I have been working on songs for another EDU project, but I don't know when that's going to happen.
That's actually, I'm mildly surprised. I feel like when I was writing this question, I was thinking, oh, but I have to give him an easy way out. I don't want to feel like I'm bullying, like, hey, are you still writing music? But I'm glad to hear you are.
Yeah, I'm always writing music. Most of what I write, you'll never hear, but that's part of the whole thing.
Is there anything, so you remastered Sketches to be Sketches 3D recently, and is there anything that you've sort of learned in your career as a producer that you wish you could have brought back to when you were starting out writing and recording music? And do you think that was sort of a way of trying to give that good advice that you have now to your younger self?
I think Sketches was kind of my first production project, like the first thing I was in charge of, that I had to take care of all the things. So I learned a lot. Like, I will say, like, when we started, I guess my first recording thing was, my first serious recording project was Marvin's Marvelous Mechanical Museum. And when we were doing that, we went into the studio, and our record guy, Al, he's like, you have 2 weeks in the studio to do this. And we're like, we kind of laughed. But over time, it became apparent it was never going to happen in 2 weeks. It took us months, and he was so mad at us. But we just had to get it done. And in that time, when we were recording that, the original version, we I didn't realize that, like, when you record an orchestra, you can't record each instrument separately because you'll have tons of intonation problems, which means, like, things are just going to sound off, like flat and sharp. If you're a singer, it's like the same concept for instruments. So it wound up being really messy. And when we went back, and it was a bad idea. And when we went back in 2008 to, like, revisit the album, the engineer pulled up all those stems and started taking out instruments and tuning some, because he was like, this is a mess. Like, you guys made a mess. And it was true. If you hear the stems, you'll be like, ooh, that sounds terrible. But that's, like, one of those things you learn over time. Like, and also technology's evolved a lot. Like, I remember seeing Melodyne and tuning for the first time with one of the, I think it was just after, actually, there was a cello that was out of tune, or we wanted to change notes. And I remember Chris Shaw, the engineer, like, showing me that I could change the notes of the cello in Melodyne using the software. And I was like, oh my gosh, that's a game changer for me. But now, like, that's part of my everyday process. Is I know when I have a singer or instrumentalist in the studio, I can manipulate it to get the sound I want after the fact. So I'm a little bit looser with performance, and I would never record an orchestra separately ever again. Yeah.
The thing about the recording instruments separately is something, like I said, my younger sister's a band kid now, and because of COVID, they have to practice and such apart from each other. And what they've learned is that they have to record together, though, for that exact same reason. You can't play over Zoom.
Yeah, I mean, you'll have latency issues where things aren't, like, lined up, but also, if you're a really good engineer, it's possible to make things sound good these days. I think this technology's come so far, but it is a lot harder to get things sounding good when you're on the same room with live instruments. I mean, with a guitar and bass and stuff, like, obviously, like, generally when you're recording that, you're recording it right into the computer, so it's a little easier.
I'm being asked by one of my listeners to ask you, have you produced any Tally Hall songs or songs for other members of Tally Hall? Because you produced the Club Can't Handle Me cover for, I believe, Casey Shea.
Oh, man, that was a long time ago, too. That was also an early production thing that definitely made some mistakes on that one. I mean, I worked on both Rob's and Joe's albums. I've contributed. Joe less so, because he's very independent, I'd say. But yeah, Rob's a very collaborative person. I guess Joe is too. I mean, Hawaii Part 2 is a million different people. Yeah, yeah, I've definitely produced stuff for both of them. I worked with both of them in that capacity.
How has COVID changed your work as a producer? I imagine, is that something you can do remotely, or I would imagine you'd have to be in the studio?
Yeah, obviously, honestly, it's been a pretty good year for me. In terms of work, not in terms of life, but in terms of work. I already work like isolated in small rooms by myself most of the time. So that wasn't much of a change. I've never had like a separate music studio than the one in my my living space. And I did do that over COVID because I wanted to get out of the house a little more. But as a producer, it's everybody I know adjusted to the time and was able to work remotely via Zoom. And there's some programs that you can easily record long distance, and yeah, it hasn't been too bad.
That's pretty good. Did you say you had to leave around 8:30?
Yeah. Okay, if you have a couple more questions.
Yeah. I can just say, if you have to go, do you have any upcoming projects to promote? Anything you'd like to say while you're on air to our lovely listeners?
You're very thorough and asked me questions I have not been asked, so I do appreciate that. I don't have anything to share at the moment, but stay tuned. We'll see. 2021 is going to be a good year, right?
2021, it shall be better than this year. I speak it into existence now.
Yeah. For sure.
Thank you very much for calling in to WWPI.
Thanks for having me. I really appreciate it. And yeah.
Thank you, and have a nice night.
You too. Later. Bye.